when you get me started about Kazakhstan, it's like all the memories come flooding back, and so like there's just so much that I want to talk about. I thought I would throw in here, even though it's the same day, and yes, I sometimes record multiple throughout the day, through all of my windows so you can hear me easily. The one thing I wanted to throw in that I thought would be pretty important to help establish not just the fact of how long we lived in Kazakhstan, all the memories I have there, and how old I was, so I remember more, but also more so the fact that I would say that Kazakhstan is really where I became a believer. And that's going to be a little complicated, right? Because you've got a missionary kid who's grown up with parents who have been preaching the gospel throughout his life. How can he not know about Jesus, when he's already, 11 when we moved there? So let me put it to you this way. I believe that I accepted Jesus as my Lord and Savior when I was very young, with my mom in Egypt. I think I talked about this back as far as standing in the kitchen and eating grapes, and my mom told me about Jesus and I accepted him as my Lord and Savior. When we got to Kazakhstan, though, I started to have a personal relationship with Jesus. And let me just tell you how that happened. I've told you about my buddy who woke up in the middle of the night speaking in tongues. Well, I had a somewhat similar experience. We were at a prayer time in the office, our church office at the time, and I would participate in those. And I remember I was kneeling in front of my chair, like we'd all sit around in a circle in a chair in the living room, because it was at our house, at our old house that we turned into the office. But we were all sitting around in a circle. We'd done some worship together, and we were praying. I had my knees. I was on my knees and had my face on the seat of my chair, and my dad was next to me. And all of a sudden, and this is kind of the interesting thing about it for me, I had not heard about the story about the young guy who woke up speaking in tongues. I had not heard that story yet. I had not ever been taught from my dad of what speaking in tongues was. I had no clue. I had heard that something was going on with different people in our church, and there were some conversations that I kind of had overheard, but never heard anything about mentioned as speaking in tongues, or what it was, or what was happening. So here I am, and at this point I think I'm probably about, I had to be at least 13 or 14, because we'd been there a little while. But needless to say, I just started speaking in tongues. I didn't know what was happening to me. I just, see if I can get that glare off. There we go, that's a little better. I just started speaking in tongues. I had no idea what was going on. All I knew for sure, for a fact, was that it was God. That he had, I put it in a slightly weird way, taking control of my body. And for me, it was a major encounter with God, a major moment of understanding God's power, feeling like he's real. There was so much of it for me where it was a big aspect of my life changing. Now, I won't go into all the disclaimers and everything like that. My life didn't necessarily take a dramatic turn, but it was the moment for me when God became real. And from then on out, lots of things happened throughout my life in Kazakhstan, spiritually, that I started to grow and change. And so because of that happening in Kazakhstan, with many of my other friends having similar experiences or other things and happen in their lives where it was obvious that it was God working in their life, and that started their personal relationship with God. Because of that, it established the fact for me that Kazakhstan was home. And it held a special place because it's where I started really seeing God work. And other people's lives. I saw miracles, I saw healings, I saw people speaking in tongues, people slain in the Spirit. I saw people's families brought back together. I saw people who had been divorced to get remarried because they realized that God didn't want them to be divorced. I saw all sorts of crazy things happen. And I feel like that spiritual aspect of Kazakhstan, as we talk more about what happened there and the different stories, I wanted you to know that kind of starting off in the first few videos about Kazakhstan, because it was just really important to me. So we'll keep this one slightly shorter, but let's see. Last time I was talking about my friends, and this time we're talking about that spiritual aspect. Probably next time we'll end up talking about Joy Church and kind of how that started and different stories that I remember of Joy Church and what we did. That church, it's still going now in Kazakhstan. It is amazing what God has done through Joy Church in Almaty, Kazakhstan. But on that note, I will let you go, and we'll talk to you tomorrow with sun in my face.